I never imagined I'd be removing a tracking device from my own car at 3 in the morning, but here I was, lying on the cold concrete of my garage floor, staring at the small black box magnetically attached to my undercarriage. The beam from my flashlight caught the blinking red LED, and something inside me shifted, a tectonic plate of trust cracking clean through. Before we continue, we ask you to hit the hype button, subscribe, and like the video to help the channel grow. Tell us which city you are from in the comments. We would like to get to know our audience better. My son Joshua had been here earlier that evening, all smiles and concern. "Just want to make sure the old Honda's running safe, Dad," he'd said, sliding underneath with a toolbox I'd bought him for his 16th birthday. At the time, I'd felt touched. Stupid me. I'd been a detective for 20 years before a bullet through my shoulder ended that career. The injury left me with limited mobility in my right arm and a pension that barely covered property taxes. But it didn't take away my instincts, and those instincts had been screaming at me for months now. I pulled the device free, careful not to damage it. The brand was expensive, professional grade, not something a college kid buys on a whim. This was deliberate, calculated. Back in the kitchen, I made coffee and examined the tracker under my desk lamp. GPS-enabled, real-time monitoring, battery life of 6 months. Someone wanted to know where I went, when, and for how long. The only question was why. My phone buzzed. Joshua's name lit up the screen at 3:47 a.m. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. Couldn't sleep. You okay?" The concern in his voice sounded genuine, but I'd interrogated enough liars to know authenticity from performance. "Fine, Jay. Why wouldn't I be?" A pause. Too long. "No reason, just, making sure you're taking care of yourself." "I appreciate that, son." After we hung up, I sat in the darkness of my living room, the tracker sitting on the coffee table like a coiled snake. 2 years have passed since Leora's passing. 2 years since my wife's warmth left this house and took the life out of it with her. 2 years since my children started looking at me differently, not with grief or sympathy, but with something else. Something I hadn't wanted to name until now. Calculation. I thought about the visits that had increased lately. Joshua stopping by just to check on things. Candice, his wife of 1 year, always commenting on how big the house was for just one person. Talia, my daughter, growing more distant with each passing month, her eyes sliding away from mine during our brief conversations. The coffee grew cold in my hands. I made a decision. At dawn, I drove to the post office and mailed the tracker to a random address in Vancouver, Canada. Let them wonder. Let them think their old man had lost his mind and driven across international borders. I needed time, and confusion was my ally. 12 hours later, my phone rang again. Joshua, his voice tight with barely concealed frustration. "Dad, where are you? I've been trying to reach you all day." "I'm home. Where else would I be?" "Your car? Have you gone anywhere today?" There it was. The slip. He was tracking me, and the signal was telling him I was in Canada while I stood in my kitchen in San Diego. "Just the post office this morning." "Why? Is something wrong?" Another pause. I could almost hear the gears turning in his head, trying to make sense of the impossible data. "No, nothing. Just wanted to see if you needed anything. Candice and I are making dinner tonight. Want to come over?" "Sure. What time?" 7. "See you then, Dad." I hung up and smiled for the first time in months. Not a happy smile. A predator's smile. The dinner invitation wasn't kindness. It was reconnaissance. They wanted to observe me, gauge whether I suspected anything. Well, I'd play along, for now. I spent the afternoon doing what I did best, investigating. 20 years in law enforcement had taught me that people always leave traces. Financial records, emails, browser histories. The digital age made betrayal easier, but also more documented. I started with my bank accounts. At first, everything seemed normal, but then I noticed small discrepancies. Withdrawals I didn't make, transfers I didn't authorize. Each amount was small enough to go unnoticed, but together they revealed a disturbing truth. Someone had access to my accounts. I checked my computer's login history. Unfamiliar IP addresses, one of which matched the location of Joshua's startup office. My chest tightened, but I stayed calm. Emotion wasn't going to help. I went through my filing cabinet. Legal documents, insurance policies, all in order, until I reached my will. The pages felt different, newer, slightly heavier. A closer look revealed forgeries. Good ones, but still forgeries. According to these documents, I'd given Joshua power of attorney 6 months ago, and the will had been altered to transfer everything to him and Candice if I passed or became incapacitated. Surprisingly, my hands didn't shake. Maybe, deep down, I'd known it was coming. Maybe I'd been preparing since the day Leora passed and I was left with strangers wearing my children's faces. I photographed everything, then returned the documents to their places. No one could know I'd discovered their scheme, not yet. At 6:30, I showered and changed. My reflection in the mirror showed a man who'd aged a decade in 2 years, gray stubble, deep lines, and shoulders sagging with more than just old injuries. But my eyes were clear, focused. I was going to war with my own children, and I was going to win. Joshua's house was in a development that screamed new money. Identical facades, manicured lawns, 3-car garages, the kind of place where everyone smiled, but no one knew their neighbors' names. Perfect camouflage for people with something to hide. Candice answered the door, dressed in designer jeans and a cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly pension. Her smile was practiced, perfect. "Harry, so glad you could make it. Come in, come in." She'd stopped calling me Dad about 6 months ago. Another small detail I'd filed away. The interior was like a showroom, everything coordinated, nothing personal. Candice's work, obviously. An interior designer, she treated spaces like stage sets, beautiful but hollow. Joshua emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a towel. He had his mother's dark hair and sharp features, but where Leora's face had been warm, Joshua's had grown calculating. Or maybe it had always been that way, and I'd been too blind to see it. "Dad, good to see you." He hugged me, his shoulders briefly tense, nervous. "How have you been?" "Getting by. You know how it is." Sure. Come sit down. Dinner's almost ready." The table was set for 3. Talia wasn't coming, apparently. She'd been distancing herself from these gatherings lately. Smart girl. She'd sensed the toxicity and wanted no part of it. Over dinner, roasted chicken and vegetables that tasted like cardboard, they made small talk. How was I sleeping? Eating properly? Had I thought about downsizing? Candice, with her practiced concern, asked, "That big house must be so much work now. Honestly, Harry, it's worth quite a bit. You could sell it, move into a nice condo, and have money left over for, well, whatever you need." "I like my house," I said. "Leora and I raised our kids there. It has memories." Of course. Joshua leaned forward. "But Mom's been gone 2 years now. At some point, you have to think practically. The property taxes alone must be—" "I manage fine." An awkward silence fell as they exchanged a glance. They'd rehearsed this, I realized, coordinated their strategy. "We're just worried about you, Dad." Joshua's voice dropped into false sincerity. "Living alone, managing all those finances, it's a lot for anyone, especially at your age." I was 43, not 80, but I let it pass. "I appreciate your concern, really, but I'm doing fine." After dinner, Joshua suggested we talk in his study, man to man. Candice excused herself, disappearing upstairs with a knowing smile. The study was all dark wood and leather, projecting success and authority. Joshua poured 2 glasses of expensive scotch and handed me one. "I'm going to be direct, Dad. I think you need help." "What kind of help?" "Managing your affairs. The house, the finances, everything. You're not getting any younger, and after Mom—" He trailed off, letting the implication hang in the air. "After Mom passed, you struggled to handle things. After Mom passed, you lost your ability to manage." "I'm managing just fine," I repeated. "Are you, though?" He pulled a folder from his desk. "I've been looking into your accounts, with your permission, of course." He hadn't had my permission, but I didn't correct him. "There are irregularities, missed payments, unusual withdrawals. I'm concerned you might be having some cognitive issues." The gaslighting was almost impressive. He was presenting his own theft as proof of my incompetence. "What are you suggesting, Joshua?" "I think you should sign over power of attorney. Let me handle the financial stuff. You can focus on yourself, maybe travel, live without all this stress." "And if I don't want to do that?" For a moment, his expression hardened before the mask of concern slipped back in place. "Then I'd have to consider other options. For your own protection, there are legal processes for when someone becomes unable to manage their own affairs." There it was, the threat delivered with a smile. Sign over control voluntarily, or they'd have me declared mentally incompetent and take it by force. I took a slow sip of the scotch, buying time to control my anger. Every instinct screamed at me to grab my son by his expensive collar and demand to know when he'd become this person, but that would accomplish nothing. "I need to think about it," I said finally. "Of course. Take all the time you need." His smile widened. "Just don't take too long, okay? These things have a way of getting more complicated if we wait." I left shortly after, claiming fatigue. As I drove home through the dark streets, my phone buzzed with a text from Talia. "Can we talk? Not about them. About you." I texted back, "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on 5th Avenue, 10 a.m. At home, I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in my living room in the darkness, thinking, planning. They'd made a mistake by moving too fast, pushing too hard. If they'd been patient, smarter, they might have succeeded. But greed made people sloppy. I pulled out my laptop and started documenting everything. Every forged signature, every unauthorized transaction, every piece of evidence I'd gathered. I backed it up to 3 different cloud services and a physical hard drive I'd hide where they'd never find it. Then I called Lennon Braskin, an old friend from my detective days who'd gone into private investigation after retirement. "Harry, that really you? Must be 3 years?" "4. I need your help, Lennon, and I need it off the books." "That kind of help? What's going on?" "My family is trying to rob me. I need evidence that'll hold up in court." A long pause. "Your family? You mean Joshua and—" "Yeah, all of it. I need everything documented, witnessed, ironclad." "Jesus, Harry, I'm sorry." "Yeah, I'll help. What do you need?" We talked for an hour, making plans. Lennon would handle the surveillance and document collection. I'd continue playing the confused, aging father while gathering my own evidence from the inside. When I finally hung up and tried to sleep, Leora's face appeared in my mind. Not the way she'd looked those last days in the hospital, but vibrant and alive, laughing at something I'd said. What would she think of what our children had become? What would she think of what I was planning to do? But Leora was gone, and I was alone with wolves wearing familiar faces. The coffee shop on 5th Avenue was nearly empty at 10 in the morning. Just a few students hunched over laptops and a businessman reading the paper. I arrived early and chose a table in the back corner where we could talk without being overheard. Talia walked in 15 minutes late, looking exhausted. She'd inherited Leora's features, the same green eyes, the same delicate bone structure. But where her mother had radiated warmth, Talia seemed to carry winter inside her. She ordered a latte and slid into the seat across from me without making eye contact. "Thanks for meeting me," she said quietly. "You said you wanted to talk." "I do. She wrapped both hands around her cup, staring into the foam. "I don't know how to say this. Start at the beginning." She looked up then, and I saw something in her eyes I hadn't seen in months. Guilt. "Joshua's planning something. Him and Candice. I don't know all the details, but I've heard them talking. About you, about the house, about money." "What exactly did you hear?" "They think you're losing it. That's what they say, anyway. That you can't take care of yourself anymore. That you need someone to manage things for you." She paused. "But Dad, I don't think you're losing anything. I think they want control." "And you're just now telling me this?" She flinched. "I know. I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner, but he's my brother, and I thought maybe I was misunderstanding, maybe I was being paranoid. But then last night, after you left their house, Candice called me. She said they're going to start the process of having you declared incompetent if you don't sign over power of attorney voluntarily." My coffee had gone cold, but I took a sip anyway to give myself time to think. Talia had always been the sensitive one, caught between loyalty to her family and her own sense of right and wrong. The fact that she'd come to me meant the situation had pushed her past her breaking point. "Why are you telling me this now?" "Because it's wrong." Her voice cracked slightly. "Because Mom would be ashamed of what Joshua's doing. Because you're my father, and whatever's happened between us, you don't deserve this." "What has happened between us, Talia?" She looked away. "I blamed you, after Mom passed, for not being there enough, for working too much when you were still on the force, for all those missed dinners and school events. It wasn't fair, but grief isn't fair. And then Joshua started saying things, pointing out all the ways you'd failed as a father, and it was easier to be angry at you than to deal with the pain of losing her. And now? Now I see what he's become, what Candice turned him into, or maybe what he always was, and I realize that whatever mistakes you made, you never tried to steal from us. You never manipulated us, you just loved us, even when we didn't deserve it." My throat tightened, but I kept my voice steady. "What do you know about their plans? Specifics." She pulled out her phone and showed me screenshots of text messages between Joshua and Candice. They were damning, discussions about forging documents, about finding a doctor who'd testify to my supposed cognitive decline, about selling the house and splitting the proceeds. "Can you send me these?" "Already did. To that old email address you never use. I figured they might be monitoring your main one." Smart girl. She'd inherited more of my investigative instincts than I'd realized. "There's something else," she said. They've been talking about Mom's life insurance, the policy that paid out after she passed. They think there should have been more money, and they're convinced you hid it somehow. The policy paid exactly what it was supposed to pay. I used most of it to pay off the mortgage and medical expenses that weren't covered by insurance. I know that. But they've built this whole narrative where you're sitting on hidden money and refusing to share it with your children. It's like they've convinced themselves you're the bad guy so they can justify what they're doing. We sat in silence for a moment, the coffee shop sounds filling the space between us. "What are you going to do?" she asked finally. "What I have to." Joshua's not going to back down. He's in too deep now, and Candice just eggs him on. They've already spent money they don't have based on future expectations. Future expectations of inheriting from me? She nodded. Their house, Candice's car, Joshua's startup investment. They're leveraged to the max. If they don't get money from you soon, they're going to be in serious trouble. Which explained the urgency. They weren't just greedy, they were desperate. And desperate people made mistakes. "Talia, I need you to do something for me. Can you pretend that we didn't have this conversation? Keep acting distant. Keep them thinking you're on their side, or at least neutral. You want me to spy on them. I want you to protect yourself. If they realize you've warned me, they might cut you out completely or worse. Play along, keep your distance from me publicly, but keep your eyes and ears open." She hesitated, then nodded. "Okay. But Dad, be careful. Joshua's changed. I don't think I know who he is anymore." After she left, I sat alone with my cold coffee and thought about how families fracture. It's never one moment, one decision. It's 1,000 small cracks that spread slowly until one day you look around and realize you're standing in ruins. I spent the rest of the day meeting with Lennon at his office downtown. He'd already started preliminary surveillance, and what he'd found confirmed my worst suspicions. "They've been to 3 different lawyers in the past 2 months," Lennon said, spreading photographs across his desk. "Shopping around for someone who'd take their case for a conservatorship. Most turned them down. You need pretty solid evidence of incapacity, and they don't have it. But one lawyer, a guy named Pemberton, seems interested. He's got a reputation for, let's say, creative interpretations of elder law. I'm 43. That's not elder anything. Try telling that to your son. According to the consultation notes I managed to obtain, don't ask how, he's claiming you've been showing signs of early onset dementia, forgetting conversations, missing appointments, making irrational financial decisions. All lies. Obviously. But here's the thing, Harry. In conservatorship cases, perception matters as much as reality. If they can get a doctor to testify that you're impaired, if they can show a pattern of concerning behavior, a judge might be swayed, especially if you don't have someone advocating for you. Then I need to make sure I do, and I need to document every interaction, every conversation, every time they lie about me. Lennon leaned back in his chair. There's something else you should know. I did some digging into Candice's background. Her family's not what you'd call stable. Father went to prison for fraud when she was 15. Mother declared bankruptcy twice. She learned early that money is the only security that matters. So she married Joshua for his prospects. More like she married him for your prospects. The house, the life insurance, whatever assets you've got. She saw a future inheritance and decided to speed up the timeline. I felt something dark and cold settle in my chest. This wasn't just betrayal. It was premeditated theft dressed up as concern. "How much do you need to build a complete case?" I asked. "Give me 2 weeks. I'll have everything. Financial records, surveillance footage, witness statements. Enough to bury them if it comes to that. Make it 1 week. I don't think I have 2. That night, Joshua called. "Hey, Dad, just checking in. How are you feeling?" "Fine. Why?" "No reason. You just seemed a little off last night at dinner. Distracted, maybe. We're worried about you." The gaslighting continued. Plant the seed, water it with repeated suggestions, watch it grow into accepted truth. "I'm perfectly fine, Joshua." "Okay, good. That's good. Listen, have you given any more thought to what we discussed? About the power of attorney?" "Still thinking." "Right, well, don't think too long. Like I said, these things get complicated. Hey, actually, I was wondering if you'd be up for meeting with my doctor next week. Just a routine checkup, make sure everything's good. You haven't had a physical in a while, right?" And there it was. They wanted to get me in front of a doctor they'd already primed to find problems that didn't exist. "I have my own doctor, Joshua." "I know, but Dr. Westwood is really good. Best in the city. It would make me feel better, you know? Please, Dad. For me. For him." As if any of this had ever been for anyone but himself. "I'll think about it." After we hung up, I added the call to my growing list of evidence. Every conversation recorded, every manipulation documented. They were building a case against me, but I was building a better one against them. I pulled out the box of photographs from the closet. Years of family memories, birthdays and holidays and ordinary moments. I found the one I was looking for. Joshua, at 8 years old, gap-toothed and grinning, holding up a fish he'd caught on our camping trip. Leora beside him, her hand on his shoulder, looking at him with such pure love it made my chest ache. When had he changed? Or had he always been capable of this, and I'd simply refused to see it? I put the photographs away and went back to work. Sentiment was a luxury I couldn't afford. Dr. Westwood's office was in one of those medical complexes that smelled like antiseptic and desperation. I'd agreed to the appointment because refusing would have looked suspicious, and because I wanted to see exactly how they planned to manipulate a medical professional. Joshua had offered to drive me, but I'd insisted on taking my own car. Small acts of independence that undermined their narrative of my declining capabilities. The waiting room was generic, outdated magazines, bland artwork, the quiet hum of air conditioning. I'd arrived 30 minutes early and used the time to set up my phone to record audio in my shirt pocket. Not admissible in court, maybe, but useful for my own records. A nurse called my name, took my vitals, all normal, and led me to an examination room where Dr. Westwood waited. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe mid-30s, with the kind of eager enthusiasm that suggested he hadn't been practicing long enough to develop proper skepticism. "Mr. James, good to meet you. Your son has told me a lot about you?" "I'm sure he has. He's very concerned about your well-being. That's wonderful, having family that cares so much." "Wonderful," I echoed. He performed the routine examination, assessing my reflexes, measuring my pressure, and listening to my heart and lungs. All normal, which seemed to confuse him slightly. He kept glancing at his notes, as if they contradicted what he was seeing. "How have you been feeling lately? Any memory problems, confusion, difficulty with daily tasks?" "None. Trouble sleeping, changes in appetite?" "I sleep fine. Appetite's normal." "What about mood, depression, anxiety?" "I'm a widower. Some sadness is normal. But I'm not depressed." He scribbled notes, his pen moving faster than seemed warranted by my simple answers. "Your son mentioned you've been having some financial difficulties. Forgetting to pay bills, making unusual purchases." "My son is mistaken. My bills are paid automatically, and I haven't made any unusual purchases." He also said you've been more isolated lately, not seeing friends, staying home a lot. "I'm an introvert who lost his wife 2 years ago. I'm not isolating. I'm grieving and processing. There's a difference." Dr. Westwood looked uncomfortable. Whatever script Joshua had provided wasn't matching reality, and he didn't know how to proceed. "Mr. James, I have to ask some routine cognitive questions. Nothing to worry about. Can you tell me what day it is?" "Thursday, November 7th. "And who is the current president?" I answered correctly. He asked me to count backward from 100 by 7s to remember 3 objects, to draw a clock showing a specific time. I performed every task perfectly. "Well," he said finally, "you seem to be in good health, cognitively sharp, physically sound. So you'll tell my son there's nothing wrong with me?" A pause. "I'll provide him with my findings, yes." "Which are?" "That based on this examination, I don't see signs of cognitive impairment or inability to manage your own affairs." "Will you put that in writing?" He looked startled. "That's standard practice, yes." "Good. I'd like a copy of that report sent directly to me as well, not just to my son." "Of course. That's your right as a patient." I left the office feeling grimly satisfied. They'd tried to get a medical professional to rubber stamp their lies, and it had backfired. Dr. Westwood might be young, but he wasn't corrupt. He'd documented my competence, which would be invaluable if this ended up in court. My phone rang as I reached my car. "Lennon, we've got a problem." "What kind of problem?" "Joshua just filed preliminary conservatorship paperwork. I've got a contact in the courthouse who tipped me off. The hearing is scheduled for 2 weeks from now." My hand tightened on the phone. "He's moving faster than we thought." "He's desperate. I traced his financial records. He's 3 months behind on his mortgage, maxed out 4 credit cards, and his startup is bleeding money. If he doesn't get access to your assets soon, he's going to lose everything." "Good." "Harry, you need to take this seriously. Even with Dr. Westwood's report, if they can find one doctor willing to testify against you, if they can present enough circumstantial evidence, a judge might grant temporary conservatorship. Once that happens, regaining control is 10 times harder." "Then we make sure it doesn't happen. Where are we with the evidence?" "Almost there. I've got documentation of the forged documents, the unauthorized bank access, everything. But I need 3 more days to get sworn affidavits from witnesses." "You have 2 days. That's all I can give you." I drove to Talia's apartment across town. She'd moved out 6 months ago, taking a tiny studio in a neighborhood I didn't love but understood. She needed distance from the family toxicity. She answered the door in sweatpants and an old t-shirt, looking younger than her 18 years. "Dad? What's wrong?" Joshua filed conservatorship papers. The hearing is in 2 weeks. Her face went pale. "He actually did it. I thought he was just threatening, trying to scare you into signing over power of attorney. He's desperate, financially underwater. This is his Hail Mary pass. What are you going to do? Fight back. But I need to know, are you going to be okay? When this gets ugly, and it will get ugly, they're going to pressure you to take sides." "I've already taken sides." She stepped back to let me in. Her apartment was small but tidy, decorated with photographs and artwork that showed she'd inherited her mother's eye for beauty. "I just don't know how to help." "You've already helped more than you know. The information you gave me, those text messages, they're building blocks. But Talia, I need you to promise me something. When this goes to court, if I ask you to testify, will you do it?" She wrapped her arms around herself. "Testify against Joshua. Testify for the truth. That's all I'm asking. He's my brother." "I know, and I'm your father. And your mother would want you to do what's right, not what's easy." Tears welled in her eyes. "I miss her so much. She'd know what to do. She always knew what to do." I pulled her into a hug, feeling her shake against my chest. "She'd tell you to follow your conscience, to be brave, to remember that family isn't just about loyalty. It's about love, and real love doesn't include betrayal." "Okay," she whispered. "If you need me to testify, I will." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in the bed I'd shared with Leora for 15 years and stared at the ceiling, running through scenarios and strategies. In 2 weeks, I'd stand in front of a judge and fight for my right to control my own life. Everything depended on the evidence Lennon was gathering and my ability to prove I was competent, capable, and being systematically betrayed by my own son. The house settled around me, creaking like an old friend. How many memories lived in these walls? Joshua's first steps, Talia's birthday parties, Leora humming while she cooked. They wanted to take it all from me, turn it into cash, split it between them, erase the history. Not while I'm alive. A text from an unknown number buzzed. "Stop fighting. Sign the papers, and this can be easy. Keep resisting, and we'll make sure everyone knows how far gone you are." I deleted it. Let them threaten. Every move they made only dug their hole deeper. I went to my office, pulling out the files, bank statements, documents, recordings. The evidence laid out in perfect order. Lennon had taught me that winning wasn't just about having the truth. It was presenting it so clearly no other story could stand. I worked until dawn, organizing everything into a narrative that was undeniable. Joshua and Candice had forged documents, accessed my accounts, and planned to have me declared incompetent to steal everything I'd worked for. I was Harry James, former detective, and I wasn't going down without a fight. When morning light crept through the window, everything was ready. I just needed Lennon to finish his part. Joshua called. "Morning, Dad. How'd the doctor go?" "Fine. He said I'm in good health." "Great. Listen, Candice and I want to have you over for dinner on Sunday. Talia will be there." A staged family gathering. "What time?" 6. "Please think about what we discussed. It doesn't have to be difficult." "I'll see you Sunday, Joshua." I added the call to my log. Every lie, every manipulation, all documented. Sunday dinner would be interesting. I'd play the confused father one more time, let them think they were winning, and then I'd show them exactly who they'd been underestimating. Sunday arrived cold and gray, matching my mood. I dressed carefully, clean slacks, a button-down shirt, my good watch. The costume of a man in control of his faculties, because appearances mattered in the game we were playing. Lennon had called earlier with an update. He had everything we needed: witness statements from bank employees, expert analysis of the forged signatures, surveillance footage of Joshua and Candice meeting with Pemberton, the lawyer known for bending conservatorship law. It was airtight. "The hearing is in 12 days, Lennon had said. "That's when we hit them, not before. If we show our hand too early, they'll have time to manufacture counter-evidence. And what do I do until then?" "Exactly what you've been doing. Play along, document everything. Don't give them an excuse to claim you're unstable or dangerous." So I'd go to dinner, smile at their lies, and add it all to the pile of evidence that would bury them. Talia's car was already in Joshua's driveway when I arrived. Through the front window, I saw them all gathered in the living room, probably rehearsing their script. Candice opened the door before I could knock. "Harry, right on time. Come in, come in." The house smelled like roasted chicken and ambition. They'd set the table with the good china. This was their last attempt to get me to surrender before they moved to force me. Joshua and Talia stood in the living room. My daughter looked uncomfortable, her eyes not meeting mine. Joshua wore a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Dad, glad you're here. Can I get you something to drink?" "Water's fine." "Come on, Dad, have a glass of wine. Relax a little." "I don't want wine, Joshua. Water." A flash of irritation crossed his face before the smile returned. "Sure, water." We sat down to dinner, and for the first 20 minutes, they kept the conversation light. How was I sleeping? Watching good shows? Needed help with anything? I answered in monosyllables, waiting. They'd called this meeting for a reason. Candice made the first move. "Harry, we've been thinking. This house, it's too much for one person. All that maintenance, the expense. Have you considered something smaller?" "I like my house." "Of course," Joshua jumped in. "It's full of memories. We get that, but practically speaking, it doesn't make sense. You could sell it, move into a nice condo or assisted living. I'm 43, not 80. I know, but with everything going on, the confusion, the forgetfulness." "What confusion? What forgetfulness?" Joshua and Candice exchanged glances. Talia stared at her plate. "Dad, come on. You've been struggling, we've noticed. Missing appointments, forgetting conversations. Dr. Westwood might have said you're okay, but we know you. We can see the changes." "What changes specifically?" "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." Joshua's voice sharpened. "We're trying to help you. We've consulted with lawyers. The best thing, the only thing, is for you to sign over power of attorney so we can manage things for you." "Taken care of. Is that what you call stealing from me?" The room went silent. Talia's head snapped up. Candice's fork paused midway to her mouth. Joshua's expression flickered between surprise and calculation. "Stealing? Dad, what are you talking about?" "The forged power of attorney. The unauthorized access to my bank accounts. The tracking device you put on my car. Should I go on?" Joshua's laugh sounded forced. "That's paranoid, Dad. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're not thinking clearly. We're your family. We would never—" "Stop lying to me." My voice stayed steady. "I know everything. The question is, what are you going to do now that I've called you on it?" Candice set down her fork. "Maybe we should all take a breath. This is getting emotional. And you're going to sit there and pretend you had nothing to do with pushing my son to betray me? You, who saw dollar signs instead of a father-in-law? Who pushed Joshua to move faster, take more, risk everything because you're both drowning in debt you can't pay?" Her face flushed. "I don't know what you think you know, but I know you're 3 months behind on your mortgage. I know Joshua's startup is failing. I know you've maxed out every line of credit, banking on money you thought you'd get from me." I turned to my son. "I know you filed conservatorship papers without even having the decency to tell me to my face." Joshua stood, his chair scraping against the floor. "You had me followed?" "I protected myself. There's a difference. You're paranoid. You're unstable. And this—" he gestured at the table. "This just proves it. We're trying to help you, and you're acting like we're the enemy. You are the enemy. The moment you decided to forge my signature, steal my money, and try to have me declared incompetent, you became my enemy." Talia spoke for the first time, her voice small. "Joshua, is it true? Did you really forge documents?" "Stay out of this, Talia." "Did you?" He turned on her. "Whose side are you on?" "There shouldn't be sides. We're supposed to be a family." "We are a family, but Dad's not capable of managing his own affairs anymore, and someone has to step up. If you can't see that, then maybe you need to leave." Talia stood up, tears streaming down her face. "Mom would be ashamed of you. Both of you." She looked at me. "I'm sorry, Dad. I should have told you sooner. I should have done more." "You did enough. Go home, Talia. You don't need to be part of this." She grabbed her purse and left, the door slamming behind her. The silence that followed was thick. Joshua and Candice stood on one side of the table, me on the other. The battle lines were clearly drawn. "The hearing is in 12 days, Joshua said finally. "We'll see what the judge thinks about your competence, and when they grant us conservatorship, your suspicion and paranoia won't matter. We'll have legal control, and you'll have no choice but to accept it." "You really think you're going to win?" "I know we are. We have evidence. We have expert testimony. We have a pattern of concerning behavior. What do you have? Accusations and conspiracy theories?" I smiled, not a nice smile. "I have the truth, and I have proof. Every forged signature analyzed by a handwriting expert. Every unauthorized transaction documented and witnessed. Every lie you've told to doctors and lawyers recorded and ready to present. You think you're going to walk into that courtroom and paint me as incompetent? I'm going to walk in and paint you as a thief. Candice's face had gone white. Joshua's jaw clenched. You're bluffing. Am I? We'll find out in 12 days. I left without another word, walking out of that showroom house with its empty perfection and driving home through the dark streets. My hands were steady on the wheel, my mind clear. The final confrontation was set. In 12 days, we'd stand in front of a judge, and only one version of reality would prevail. I had evidence, I had witnesses, I had the truth, but I also knew that trials were unpredictable, and even the strongest case could be undermined by a skilled lawyer or an unsympathetic judge. I couldn't afford to be complacent. At home, I called Lennon. How'd it go? They know I'm on to them. No more pretense. Good. Let them panic. Panicked people make mistakes. Unless they decide to do something desperate. You think they might? I thought about the look in Joshua's eyes when I'd left. Equal parts rage and fear. I think a man drowning will grab onto anything, even if it pulls someone else under with him. Watch your back, Harry. I've seen what family disputes can turn into when serious money is involved. I spent 20 years watching my back. I'm not stopping now. That night I slept with my phone on the nightstand and a baseball bat under the bed. Paranoid? Maybe. But paranoia was just preparation when the threats were real. The next few days passed in tense preparation. Lennon and I met daily, refining our strategy, organizing evidence into presentations a judge couldn't ignore. We hired Patricia Nguyen, a sharp-eyed lawyer known for dismantling fraudulent conservatorships. I've seen a lot of family betrayals, she said, but this one is particularly calculated. Your son isn't just greedy, he's strategic. That makes him dangerous in court. Can we win? With what you've gathered? Yes, but we need to be prepared for anything. He'll try to paint you as paranoid or unstable. We need to show the judge you're competent and the victim of fraud. I spent hours preparing my testimony with Patricia, learning how to stay calm under questioning, how to present facts without emotion. Meanwhile, Joshua moved fast. I was served with an emergency petition for temporary conservatorship, claiming I was mentally unstable and had made threatening statements toward family members. It's a setup, Lennon said when I showed him the documents. They're trying to get temporary control before the main hearing. They're saying I threatened them? Apparently your confrontation at dinner was aggressive. Candice filed a police report. I never touched her. Doesn't matter. They're spinning a narrative. We need to counter it fast. Patricia filed an opposition brief, including statements from neighbors, Dr. Westwood's report, and bank records proving unauthorized transactions. But the emergency hearing was set for 2 days away, not enough time to present everything. We'll do what we can, Patricia said. The goal is to prevent temporary conservatorship. If we keep control until the main hearing, we'll have time to present the full case. The night before the hearing, I sat surrounded by papers, the weight of everything pressing down on me. Everything Leora and I had built was at risk of being handed over to people who saw it as assets to be liquidated. My phone rang. Talia. Dad, are you okay? Hanging in there. You? Joshua called me. He wants me to testify for him tomorrow to say I've noticed changes. Are you going to? A long pause. No, I won't lie for him. I told him I was betraying the family. I said he'd already done that. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. I put myself here by staying quiet. Dad, I want to testify for you. Tomorrow, if they'll let me. That means going against your brother in court. No taking it back? I know. I'm ready. Your mother would be proud. I hope so. Her voice cracked. I miss her so much. I know she'd be heartbroken. She'd also be happy you're choosing what's right over what's easy. We hung up, and for the first time in weeks, I felt hope. Not for reconciliation with Joshua, but hope that truth might prevail over manipulation. The morning of the hearing was gray and cold. I dressed in my best suit, the one I'd worn to Leora's funeral, and met Patricia outside the courthouse. Remember, she said as we climbed the steps, stay calm no matter what they say. Don't react. Don't get defensive. You're the stable, competent adult. Make them look desperate. The courtroom was smaller than I expected, more bureaucratic than dramatic. Judge Martinez presided, a woman in her 60s with tired eyes, probably used to family dysfunction. Joshua and Candice sat with Pemberton, their lawyer. Joshua wore a suit that probably cost more than my car payment. Candice played the concerned daughter-in-law. Talia slipped in and sat in the gallery behind me. When Joshua saw her, his expression darkened. Pemberton went first, painting a picture of a man in decline. He described the unauthorized transactions as confusion. He presented the tracking device as concern. He claimed my dinner confrontation showed aggression. Your Honor, my clients are trying to protect a father who can no longer protect himself. Mr. James has shown signs of cognitive decline and inability to manage his financial affairs. Temporary conservatorship is necessary. Judge Martinez looked at me. Mr. James, do you have counsel? Patricia stood. Yes, Your Honor. Patricia Nguyen, representing Mr. James. Ms. Nguyen, your response? Your Honor, this is not a case of protection. This is attempted theft. Mr. James is a 43-year-old man in excellent health. He has a clean medical evaluation from Dr. Westwood showing no cognitive impairment. What he has is evidence of fraud by his son and daughter-in-law. She laid out the evidence, forged documents, unauthorized access, and the financial desperation that motivated Joshua and Candice. Judge Martinez leaned back. Serious allegations on both sides. Mr. Pemberton, do you have evidence of cognitive decline beyond financial issues? We have testimony from family members, Your Honor. And Ms. Nguyen, do you have proof of fraud? We have extensive documentation, Your Honor, but need time to present it properly. We request the full hearing. Judge Martinez studied the papers. I don't see clear and immediate danger here. Emergency conservatorship denied. We'll proceed with the scheduled hearing on the 21st. Anything else? Your Honor, Patricia said, we request the petitioners be prohibited from accessing Mr. James's accounts until the hearing. Granted. Mr. Joshua James, no access to your father's accounts or property. Violation will result in contempt charges. Clear? Joshua's face went red. Yes, Your Honor. We're adjourned. Outside the courtroom, Patricia smiled. That went as well as we could hope. Now we have 9 days to prepare. What are the odds? 70-30 in our favor. We have stronger evidence, but family matters can be unpredictable. So we keep preparing. We keep preparing. I walked away, but Joshua stepped in my path. This isn't over. No, it's not. But you're going to lose. You really think destroying your relationship with your son is worth this? Over money? This isn't about money. It's about you trying to steal my life. There's no relationship left to destroy. You did that when you decided I was worth more as an asset than as a father. He stepped closer. You'll regret this. Turning Talia against me, airing family business in court. You'll win nothing but loneliness. I've been alone since your mother passed and you became a stranger. At least now I'll be alone with my dignity intact. I walked past him to Talia by my car. Thank you for coming, I said. I wouldn't have been anywhere else. She hugged me quickly. 9 more days. 9 more days. The next 9 days blurred with preparation. Lennon finalized surveillance. Patricia rehearsed questions. We built exhibits that would prove fraud undeniable. But something else was building in me, cold determination. Joshua had chosen greed over family. Fine. He'd live with the consequences. The night before the hearing, I barely slept, thinking about the moment years from now when Joshua would realize what he lost. Not the money, but the father. Would he regret it? Probably not. At dawn, I made coffee. The house was quiet, full of memories. Leora cooking, children laughing. All gone now. My phone buzzed. Lennon. Ready for this? As ready as I'll ever be. We've got everything we need. Just tell the truth, stay calm. The evidence will do the rest. And if it doesn't? Then we appeal. But it won't come to that. I wanted to trust him. I dressed in my suit one last time and drove to the courthouse. This is it, Patricia said. Everything we've prepared for. Remember, you're the victim, but also the stronger party. Show the judge you're capable, aware, and betrayed. That won't be hard. One more thing. When they put Joshua on the stand, don't react. Just truth in response. Can you do that? I thought about it. Yes, I can. This wasn't about emotion anymore. It was about winning, and I was going to win. The courtroom was more crowded this time. A different judge, Thompson, a stern man in his late 50s known for his no-nonsense approach to family law. That could work in my favor or against me. Hard to tell. Joshua and Candice sat with Pemberton, their expressions carefully neutral. They'd brought witnesses, 2 of their friends who'd be prepared to lie about my supposed decline, plus a psychologist they'd hired to give an expert opinion without ever having examined me. Patricia had warned me about all of it. Standard tactics in contested conservatorships. Throw enough mud at the wall and hope some of it stuck. Judge Thompson called the court to order. This is a conservatorship hearing regarding Harold James, filed by petitioner Joshua James. Let's begin. Mr. Pemberton? Pemberton stood and launched into his opening statement. He painted Joshua as a caring son, forced to take action to protect a father who could no longer protect himself. He described a pattern of behavior, forgetting conversations, missing appointments, making poor financial decisions that supposedly indicated cognitive decline. Patricia's response was surgical. Your Honor, this case is about attempted theft disguised as concern. The petitioner has forged legal documents, accessed bank accounts without authorization, and filed for conservatorship not out of love, but out of desperation. We will prove that Harold James is perfectly capable of managing his affairs and that his son's only incapacity is moral. Judge Thompson looked between us. Strong words from both sides. Let's hear the evidence. Mr. Pemberton, call your first witness. Joshua took the stand. He'd prepared well. His voice carried just the right mix of concern and sorrow as he described his supposed worries about me. It started about 6 months ago. Little things at first. He'd forget conversations we'd had, repeat the same stories. Then the financial stuff started. Bills not getting paid, strange purchases he couldn't explain. Did you confront him about these concerns? Pemberton asked. I tried, but he got defensive, sometimes aggressive. At a recent family dinner, he accused me and my wife of trying to steal from him. It was paranoid, irrational. Patricia stood. Objection. Characterizing someone as unstable is a conclusion, not testimony. Sustained. Stick to what you observed, Mr. James. Joshua adjusted. He was angry, accusatory. He said things that didn't make sense. Pemberton walked him through the tracking device, how it was supposedly installed out of worry for my safety, through the financial irregularities, which he claimed to have discovered while helping me with paperwork I couldn't manage. Then Patricia stood for cross-examination. Mr. James, you accessed your father's bank accounts without his permission, correct? Joshua's jaw tightened. I had his account information to help him. Did you ask his permission before making those transactions? Yes or no? No. Thank you. Now you're 3 months behind on your mortgage, correct? Pemberton objected. Relevance, Your Honor. It goes to motive, Patricia responded. I'll allow it. Answer the question, Mr. James. We've had some cash flow issues, yes. You owe approximately $87,000 in unsecured debt, correct? I don't know the exact... We have your credit report, and your father has assets worth approximately $1.2 million. That would solve your financial problems, wouldn't it? This isn't about money. Isn't it, though? You forged power of attorney documents to gain control of his assets. We have handwriting analysis proving those signatures aren't your father's. You accessed his accounts illegally. Every action you've taken has been designed to separate your father from his assets. Joshua's face had gone red. I'm trying to help him. By stealing from him? No further questions. Patricia called witnesses next. Dr. Westwood testified about my perfect cognitive evaluation. The bank manager testified that the transactions Joshua claimed I'd forgotten were actually ones I'd never authorized. Lennon presented surveillance footage of Joshua and Candice meeting with Pemberton weeks before they ever mentioned concerns to me. Then Patricia called the handwriting expert, who explained how the signatures on the forged power of attorney documents didn't match my signature patterns. Proof of sophisticated forgery. Finally, Patricia called me to the stand. Mr. James, can you explain your current living situation? I live alone in the house my wife and I bought 23 years ago. I manage all my own affairs, cooking, cleaning, finances, everything. And your mental state? Any confusion, memory problems? None. I'm in excellent health, both physically and mentally. Why do you think your son filed for conservatorship? Because he's in debt and sees my assets as the solution. When I refused to give him control, he decided to take it by force. Pemberton's cross-examination tried to shake me, but I stayed calm. Every question I answered clearly and directly, demonstrating exactly the competence Joshua claimed I lacked. When I stepped down, I saw the look on Joshua's face. He knew he was losing. Judge Thompson recessed for lunch, then reconvened. I've reviewed all the evidence presented. This is one of the clearest cases of attempted fraud I've seen disguised as concern. Mr. Joshua James, you forged documents, accessed accounts illegally, and filed a baseless conservatorship petition. Not only is your petition denied, but I'm ordering you to return any funds you've taken from your father's accounts. I'm also referring this matter to the district attorney for possible criminal prosecution. He banged his gavel. We're adjourned. The courtroom erupted in murmurs. Joshua sat frozen, his face ashen. Candice grabbed his arm, whispering urgently. Patricia turned to me. You won. Completely. I know. But I wasn't done yet. Outside the courthouse, Joshua caught up with me. Dad, wait, please. I stopped but didn't turn around. I know what the judge said, but we can work this out. We can talk about this like family. I turned then. We're not family anymore, Joshua. You made that choice. I made a mistake. I'm sorry. The business was failing. Candice was pushing me. I panicked, but I never meant to hurt you. You forged my signature. You stole my money. You tried to have me declared incompetent. Those aren't mistakes. They're crimes. So what? You're just going to let them prosecute me? Your own son? You're going to prosecute yourself. I'm just not going to stop it. Candice appeared beside him. Harry, please. We can make this right. We'll pay back every penny. With what money? You're broke. We'll figure something out. Just don't let this destroy our family. Our family was destroyed the moment you two decided I was worth more as an asset than as a person. I walked away, leaving them standing on the courthouse steps. Talia waited by my car. Is it really over? The legal part is. The rest? I shrugged. Joshua called me 6 times during the hearing. I didn't answer. You don't have to choose sides, Talia. I already did, when I testified for you. There's no going back from that. I'm sorry you lost your brother. I lost him months ago. I just didn't want to admit it. She hugged me quickly. I have to get to work. Are you okay? I'm fine. Better than fine. She left, and I drove home through afternoon traffic. The house felt different when I walked in, lighter somehow, as if a weight had been lifted from the walls. Lennon called that evening. Congratulations. You destroyed them. The judge destroyed them. I just provided the evidence. Don't be modest. You played this perfectly from the moment you found that tracker. Speaking of which, the DA's office called me. They want to interview you about pressing charges. When? Tomorrow, if you're available. They're moving fast on this one. Forged documents, financial fraud, attempted conservatorship fraud. Joshua's looking at serious charges. Good. Harry, are you sure about this? Once the criminal case starts, there's no taking it back. He's your son. He stopped being my son when he tried to rob me. I spent that evening going through the house, room by room, remembering. This was the corner where Joshua took his first steps. That was the wall where we'd mark Talia's height every birthday. The kitchen where Leora had cooked 1,000 meals, filling the house with warmth and the smell of garlic. They'd wanted to take all of this and turn it into cash. Erase the memories like they meant nothing. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. Harry James? Speaking. This is District Attorney Braskin. I'd like to discuss your son's case. Are you willing to cooperate with prosecution? Completely. Good. Can you come in tomorrow at 10? I'll be there. After we hung up, I poured myself a scotch, the good bottle I'd been saving, and sat in the living room in the dark. I'd won. The house was mine, my accounts were protected, and Joshua would face consequences for what he'd done. So why didn't it feel better? Because winning against your own child, even when they deserve it, even when they forced you to fight, never feels like victory. It just feels like loss. But I'd make peace with that, eventually. The DA's office was in a downtown building that smelled like coffee and old paper. Assistant DA Braskin met me in a conference room with walls covered in legal books. Mr. James, thank you for coming. I've reviewed the evidence from your conservatorship hearing. It's substantial. My lawyer was thorough. Indeed, we're pursuing multiple charges against your son: forgery, financial fraud, identity theft. With your testimony and the documentation, this is a strong case. What's the timeline? Arraignment next week, trial in 2 to 3 months unless he pleads out. He won't plead. Why do you say that? Because admitting guilt would mean accepting what he's become. He'd rather fight and lose than face that reality. Braskin studied me. You're very calm about all this. I spent 20 years as a detective. I learned to separate emotion from process. Even when it's your own son? Especially then. We spent 2 hours going through my testimony, preparing for the criminal trial. Every detail documented, every question anticipated. When I left, I felt hollowed out but resolute. That night, Joshua showed up at my door. He looked terrible, unshaven, eyes red-rimmed, clothes rumpled. They're going to arrest me tomorrow. Did you know that? I assumed. And you don't care. I care that justice is served. Justice. He laughed bitterly. You're destroying your son for justice. No, you destroyed yourself. I'm just not covering for you. Mom would hate this. She'd hate what you're doing. Your mother would be ashamed of what you tried to do. Don't use her memory to justify your actions. He stepped forward, and for a moment I thought he might try something physical. But he just stood there, swaying slightly. I needed that money, Dad. The business was going under. The bank was threatening foreclosure. I was desperate. So you decided to steal from your father. I decided to take what would have been mine eventually anyway. Nothing is yours until I decide to give it to you, and after what you've done, you'll never see a penny. His face crumpled. Please, I'm begging you. Drop the charges. I'll disappear. You'll never see me again. Just don't send me to prison. You should have thought about prison before you forged my signature. I'm your son. You stopped being my son the moment you put that tracker on my car. I closed the door in his face and listened to him stand there for a long moment before finally walking away. The next day, Lennon called. Joshua was arrested this morning. Bail set at $50,000. Candice is trying to scrape it together. She won't manage it. They're broke. Probably end up with a bail bondsman. Harry, how are you holding up? I'm fine. You sure? This can't be easy. Easy doesn't matter. Right matters. The weeks that followed were a blur of depositions and legal proceedings. Joshua pleaded not guilty, exactly as I'd predicted. His lawyer tried to paint him as a concerned son who made errors in judgment, not a criminal. But the evidence was insurmountable. The trial was quick, just 3 days. The jury deliberated for 2 hours before returning a guilty verdict on all counts. I sat in the courtroom and felt nothing, no satisfaction, no vindication, just a cold emptiness where my son used to be. Sentencing day arrived gray and cold. I sat in the courtroom gallery as Joshua stood before Judge Martinez, the same judge from our first hearing. Mr. James, you've been found guilty of forgery, fraud, and attempted conservatorship fraud. These are serious crimes, made more egregious by the fact that you targeted your own father. Do you have anything to say before I impose sentence? Joshua looked at me then. Really looked at me, maybe for the first time in months. I'm sorry, he said. Not because I got caught, because I hurt the man who gave me everything. Too little, too late, but at least it was something. The court sentences you to 18 months in county facility, followed by 3 years probation. You will also make full restitution to your father for all funds taken. The gavel fell. Guards led Joshua away. He didn't look back. Outside the courthouse, Talia waited. Is it over? She asked. It's over. How do you feel? I thought about it. Like I won a war, but lost everything that made winning worthwhile. He made his choices, Dad. I know, doesn't make it easier. We stood there in the cold, 2 people bound by shared loss. Of Leora, of Joshua, of the family we used to be. What happens now? Talia asked. Now I go home and figure out how to live with what's left. I drove home as evening fell. The house was dark, but it was mine. Secure, protected. Everything I'd fought for, I'd kept. I walked through the rooms, touching walls filled with memories. Some good, some painful, but all mine. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I'd won. Joshua was going to prison. Candice would likely file for separation. Talia was rebuilding her life away from the wreckage. I stood alone, victorious. The house creaked around me, familiar and empty. I had protected everything Leora and I built. I'd fought off those who tried to take it. I'd won. I poured a final scotch and raised it to the darkness, to justice, to truth, to the bitter victory of being right.